got an interesting discussion for you, Saints fans, and it has to do with the quarterback position. So I want to ask you before we dive into today's video, would you rather have Derek Carr or Russell Wilson be your starting quarterback? Share your thoughts in the comment section because I'm going to be interacting with all of you down below. What's happening, Saints fans? Welcome into another edition of Saints Now by Chat Sports. As always, I am your host, Trace Girouard. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. So in today's video, we're going to discuss some free agency rumors. We're going to talk about a potential signing, and then we're also going to discuss a couple of key free agents. Maybe they're on the way back. But Russell Wilson, he was actually named a potential free agent target for the New Orleans Saints, and Bleacher Report put out an article suggesting the New Orleans Saints as a destination for Russell Wilson in free agency. Let's dive into what Bleacher Report had to say. Wilson will likely be valued as a high-end bridge quarterback, just as Kirk Cousins was last offseason. Although Wilson's slide should lead to a much more manageable contract, teams that fell outside of the top 5 in the draft order, like the Jets and the Saints, if they move on from Derek Carr, could be the most interested. And now my big question for this is, sure, maybe he would be a high-level bridge quarterback, but is he really an upgrade, and is he really a better situation to have than Derek Carr, who is currently on the roster, is currently with the depth chart, he's with the team, and, you know, like, I go back to what Bleacher Report's saying that he would have a much more manageable contract. I do believe the contract could be much more team-friendly. However, I'm not in the camp of cut him and then go sign another veteran quarterback to be a bridge. Just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. Now, the QB comparison, like, again, is Russell Wilson really an upgrade? That's an honest question. I mean, in one game less played, Derek Carr had one less touchdown, the same amount of interceptions, one game's worth less of yards. He had a higher completion percentage and a much better passer rating. And honestly, an even crazier stat, like, when you go back and look at how these two quarterbacks performed, in one less game, Derek Carr only had 8 sacks. Whereas Russell Wilson was sacked 33 times. Now, I will add some context here. It's not just because one of these quarterbacks is significantly better than the other, but it does have something to say. Russell Wilson holds on to the ball longer. He tries to create plays. He's really good at, or not, I wouldn't say really good. At one point in time, he was really good at buying himself more time, navigating the pocket. He holds on to the ball a long time. He doesn't have great wide receivers. He doesn't have the best offensive line in the league. Sound like a similar situation? Kind of does to me. Now, Bleacher Report also continued to say the Steelers lacked reliable receiver depth behind Pickens. Like I just said, a few bad games with a poor supporting cast shouldn't completely tank Wilson's value. He went 6-1 before the final month of the regular season, and he still projects as an above-average starter who can lead an offense with a capable receiving core. Well, you know, that's fine and all. Like, that's great, but the Saints also lack wide receiver depth. Like, if that was the issue in Pittsburgh, why is that not going to be an issue in New Orleans? Like, George Pickens, he's a pretty damn good wide receiver. I mean, outside of Chris Olave, you got Rashid Shaheed. He's damn good, don't get me wrong. I like what I saw from Kevin Austin Jr., but he's not a top 3 wide receiver on a team. I like what I saw from MVS, but quite frankly, I want to have another option at wide receiver. I think MVS and Rashid Shaheed are kind of interchangeable just based on the role that they would play, being the downfield burner. The Saints also lack wide receiver depth. They also have a bad offensive line, so I don't think it's that much of a different situation. So for me personally, I'd rather just roll the dice on Spencer Rattler. Like, if it comes down to making a quarterback change, I don't want to go add to the quarterback room in free agency with a guy like Russell Wilson. If it's a guy who's much younger, if it's a guy like a Justin Fields or something, whatever. Like, if you know, back against the wall, gun to my head, you said you had to pick a Steelers quarterback, I would rather go Justin Fields. But, you know, in a Saints point of thing, or like from a Saints point of view and from a Saints perspective, it just makes way more sense to roll the dice on Spencer Rattler. See what you have in him. Let's see what he's capable of in year 2 and in year 3. And if he's not a good fit, if he's not the guy, guess what? You draft another one in a couple of years. I just don't think bringing Russell Wilson in will give really any major benefit to the Saints. I don't think it fast tracks anything. I don't think it solves any major problems. So for me, I am in the camp of no Russell Wilson for the New Orleans Saints, but I want to remind you guys also before we dive into the next topic to subscribe to the channel because this is going to be a busy offseason. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. We're going to talk about this tough decision here in a moment. So if you want to go ahead and weigh in, type yes or no, would you bring back Chase Young? But reminder on the channel to subscribe. This will be a major offseason for the New Orleans Saints. In my personal opinion, it's the biggest offseason and most important offseason in recent history and, dare I say, in franchise history ever. So subscribe so you don't miss any updates. A lot of changes are going to be made, and we're going to be giving you a lot of news, a lot of rumors, a lot of updates, and I'm going to be here every step of the way. We're ramping up the content. We're ramping up the quality of the content, so I hope you guys don't miss out. Now, coming up, we're going to be discussing some free agents or some key free agents returning to the New Orleans Saints this year. We're going to discuss specifically Paulson Adebo and Chase Young. And before we dive into the latest around the free agency updates and the free agency rumors for the New Orleans Saints, got to give a big-time shout-out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. I absolutely love PrizePicks. It's the best daily fantasy sports platform out there. There's no question about it. And if you use our code CLNS, you can get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. It's playoff time, so that means it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. And like I mentioned, if you use code CLNS when you download the PrizePicks app, you will get $50 instantly when you play $5. In terms of the projections I'm rolling with here today, I'm going with the more on the rushing yards for Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I think that both of them are going to have a great day on the ground. And Russell Wilson, I'm going to take them more on his passing yards as well. So if you want to fade my picks, if you want to tail these picks, I don't really care what you do. Just do it with PrizePicks. Put your ball knowledge to the test and turn your knowledge into some cold, hard cash. PrizePicks also now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS when you download the PrizePicks app to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to PrizePicks. Run your game. All the information is in the comments and description of this video, so please support the show, support PrizePicks, and support your wallet and turn that ball knowledge into some cold, hard cash. Alrighty, so now we're going to discuss what is the future of some key free agents for the New Orleans Saints. I already mentioned them. Paulson Adebo, Chase Young, two very high-profile names and two very important names to keep an eye out for the New Orleans Saints. Bleacher Report, adding this about Chase Young, they had him as well listed in the top 50 of their free agent targets for the offseason. Now, Chase Young was much more impactful this past season than his raw sack numbers might suggest, but he needs to show he can finish more consistently, except the 25-year-old to earn another, expect the 25-year-old to earn another short-term contract in 2025. Now, for Chase Young, the production last year was pretty solid. However, I do think that it was a little underwhelming at times. He was number 7 in the league in pressures with 66 total pressures this season. That's pretty solid, I will say. But the 5.5 sacks, it's just upsetting. Like, when you have 66 pressures, only 5.5 sacks, that's pretty underwhelming in my personal opinion. And I don't want to sit here and say like he had a negative impact on the team because he didn't. I think he genuinely had a positive impact on the Saints defense. I just personally believe I wanted to see more. And I do think that Chase Young is a quality defensive end. I do think he has a lot in the tank still. And I think that he did show some good things. So in my personal opinion, my plan, I would be totally down to bring back Chase Young. I would be totally okay with it. Because when you think about the future of this depth chart and the future of this defensive line, Cam Jordan may not be playing for too much longer. But Carl Granderson, he's a younger player. Like, I think that he's fine. I think we need a true high-end defensive end that's like the guy. That's my personal opinion, but that's just me, to be totally honest. Now, recently, Cam Jordan, he was asked, like, are you planning on retiring? Like, this is an honest conversation. And before we even get that, I forgot to finish my thoughts here. Go draft a high-end defensive end. Go draft one of the top defensive ends in the draft, whether it's in round 1, whether it's in round 2. I don't care where you do it. Just go get a quality defensive end. Because Cam Jordan, he said whenever it was asked, are you planning on retiring? Nah. On Twitter, he said, nah, he ain't retiring. He doesn't plan to move on. He doesn't plan to hang him up quite yet. So for me personally, I do think that the Saints should look to bring Chase Young back. I liked the three-man pass rush trio of Granderson, Young, and Jordan, but I want a fourth guy. I want a good rookie. I want a high-level rookie and a high-performing guy that can go and be dominant like an Abdul Carter. Oh, my God, that is like my dream right now. But in my personal opinion, in 2025, the pass rush has to improve. There's no question about it. I need to see this pass rush get home a lot better. They ranked 20th in the league in sacks this past year with only 37 total sacks. It's not good. It's just not good. Brian Brzee led the team in sack production, which, I mean, credit to him. That's awesome. But I just think that a defensive end that is getting a lot of more snaps than a defensive tackle should be getting a lot more production than a defensive tackle, but it's just a testament to how quality of a pass rusher Brian Brzee was as a defensive tackle. Run stopper struggles a little bit, but as a pass rusher, Brzee is stellar. But the Saints pass rush has to improve in 2025. There's no question about it. So let's go back to this question. Would you bring back Chase Young? Just give me a yes or a no down in the comment section. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I gave my case. I'm personally down to bring him back, but I want to hear from you. Now let's also talk about Paulson Adebo because Bleacher Report mentioned him in the same article. The Saints cornerback Paulson Adebo could be a tough evaluation for many teams. He suffered a broken femur in mid-October, and he has a tendency to draw defensive holding and interference penalties. That part is true, but you know, it's kind of one of the things that comes with the production that you got. I mean, 10 pass breakups and 3 interceptions over the course of 7 games for Paulson Adebo. It's really, really good. And let's take a look at the stats for Adebo this past season. 52 total tackles, a PFF overall grade of 63.3. His PFF coverage grade, not a lot better, but I will say this. He is a player that, you know, it comes with the price. It's the yin and the yang. If you're going to be getting a lot of interceptions, if you're going to be getting a lot of pass breakups, you might be getting a lot of penalties, and that does bring up the conversation of the penalty problem. Like, a lot of times during our live watch parties and a lot of times on social media, I saw people complaining about the Paulson Adebo penalties. I was a big complainer of the Paulson Adebo penalties. He had a total of 9 for over 100 yards in 2024 season. Like, that needs to be changed. That needs to be fixed. But I do believe that he is worth bringing back. Let's look at the cornerback depth chart. Why would I bring back Paulson Adebo? Well, because when Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alontae Taylor, and Ugo Amadi were your starting 3 corners, it just really didn't get it done for me. So I love the idea of having a Paulson Adebo and a Kool-Aid McKinstry be your starting outside guys. Move Alontae back into the nickel spot. And then you can have Rico Payton, Rajon Wright, Ugo Amadi, and Shamar Jean-Charles be your backup cornerbacks. And, like, just to have a conversation about Kool-Aid McKinstry, like, I do believe that he has the capability eventually to take over as a CB1. Because this past year, in 15 games played, he was pretty damn productive. No interceptions, but 6 pass breakups. He looked really good against the Bucs, especially. Had Mike Evans locked down pretty much the entire game, which that was sick. But in tackles, he had 42 total tackles this year. He had 6 pass breakups, a PFF overall grade of 66.1. Like, I think with Kool-Aid McKinstry, he's a guy that can be the future. But why not have Paulson Adebo pour into him one more season? Why not have another, like a CB1? Because let's be honest, Paulson Adebo is a CB1 quality cornerback. You can have a CB1 in Paulson Adebo. You can have Kool-Aid McKinstry be your CB2. And then after that, you can see what happens with Paulson Adebo. If you give him an affordable contract, he can play on a team-friendly deal. He can earn a prove-it, or he can be on a prove-it type deal, earn some money the next year. And then after that, we can see what we got in Rico Payton. And I am so excited to see more from Rico Payton. I mean, the rookie out of Pitt State, the undrafted free agent, made a massive name for himself this year. Not just as a corner when he filled in the season due to some injuries. He also was really key, like a really key player, and he was very He was very impactful to the special teams side of the ball as well. And he was getting a lot of run on the special teams side of the ball. He was a really good gunner, but I want to see him as a cornerback. He had a pass breakup this year as well whenever he lined up, which was awesome to see. I want to see him get some real run. I'm very, very excited, and I think Rico Payton could be the next diamond in the rough for the New Orleans Saints as an undrafted free agent. So going back to Paulson Adebo to kind of put a bow on this and kind of bring it full circle, I am down to bring Paulson Adebo back, but I do not want to break the bank on it. If he's going to go and cost us a bunch of money, I'm okay. Just let it move on, let it go, and we'll see what we have in Rico Payton, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alante Taylor, and maybe we draft like a Will Johnson or somebody. Maybe you sign somebody in free agency. Who knows? But please, for the love of God, Mickey Loomis, do not get caught up in the idea of continuity. Don't break the bank on a player that we more than likely were already kind of planning for to be on the way out anyway. Like, going into this season, we all knew Paulson Adebo was going to play really good football, and he did play really good football. And it's due to the injury and the broken femur, which is why his market might drop a little bit. So the Saints could be recipients, and they could take advantage of that situation, and they could be recipients of Paulson Adebo's services for another season. But again, I don't want to break the bank on it. So I just want to say it was a little bit longer of a video. Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. Got to give a big-time shout-out to Nick Lopez, former LSU legend Nick Lopez. He got into the producer chair for the first time of his chat sports career. Got to say he did a great job. So shout out to Nick Lopez, and give me a squad down in the comment section if you watched the whole video. Saints fans, y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.